Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to shout out all of the people who do sponsor me via Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Henrik86, Dick Earth Skeptic, theflatearthchannel.com, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Liam Nedrick, Dank, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life Is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Tina Baker, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. I'm going to raise the mic on both G Plus and Discord so you can enjoy the dulcet tones of whoever is in there while I set up for today's live show.
Interesting.
Why is it interesting?
He's so annoying, he's interesting.
That's me.
Well, he's upset that there's no outer space for his future planet.
Wait a second. You mean they didn't land in the ocean from the ISS the other day? I seen a big thing. The astronauts splashed down.
Yeah, splashed down from where?
But 10th Man, do you get a planet? I mean,
no, I
want a planet?
I don't get a planet. I'm sorry, I don't get a planet.
Sad day.
I have a savior. I don't have a planet.
Amen to that.
But what if your savior gets you a planet?
My savior is the only God I serve. You are wanting to be a god. You have a false religion.
Okay, 10th Man.
Yeah, I know it's okay. That's what your founders say. That's what you told us the last time I had a talk with you. So I'm glad you're honest. That's all.
Don't forget their holy underwear.
No, we don't need to go there.
You guys like talking about people's underwear on this show? I thought this was about Flat Earth.
Yeah, it is. That's why we don't need to go there.
They scare easily. They're like deer. Shh.
Thinking of a virus, it wasn't underpants necessarily, it was just pants. It was in regards to reference frames, it was definitely related.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was a fun. He threw it over his shoulder.
He takes them with him.
Yeah.
That's a dumb virus.
I usually take a few reference points with me anywhere I go.
Why is it that they don't get the Coriolis? I still don't understand why they can't grasp it.
Because it's convoluted with doublespeak if you look it up. It's all riddled with contradictions that describe not actual forces of Coriolis with actual forces and actual deflections that aren't Coriolis when relating it to Earth. So it's a convoluted cluster screw if you try and look into the subject. That's why they can't get it. It's actually very simple, but it's not when it's convoluted to all hell in a Google search.
So your argument is Google makes it complicated, therefore not true?
No, he asked, why don't your side of the argument understand what Coriolis effect is? That wasn't an argument we were presenting for or against Coriolis effect, which is a real effect. It's just not observable on Earth. We don't have an Earth-based Coriolis effect. That would be our argument. We don't observe 15 degrees an hour of Earth rotating underneath a drone or a helicopter or an aeroplane. That's our actual argument. But he's asking why you guys don't understand what Coriolis requires. For instance, Simon Dan recently came out with a video explaining that things that leave Earth are still in the same reference frame. So he doesn't understand that you're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour deviation of Earth rotating underneath. He's thick. So Neil's asking why you guys don't understand what's required for Coriolis effect. That's his question. And the cluster screw on Google is the reason you guys don't understand what Coriolis effect is or what it would be to have a Coriolis effect on Earth. So yeah, Google convolutes it, Neil.
The fact is, Neil, the Earth is not rotating. There's no Earth-based Coriolis whatsoever. But they tell us the Earth is rotating. So they believe the fairy tale Narnia story, but not their own senses.
Yeah, but they don't believe the story. The story is 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotates underneath to give you a Coriolis effect from the ground as you observe things not in your reference frame. Things that have left the spinning Earth, like a football, as Neil deGrasse Tyson explains. Well, what? As I say, same example, Simon Dan. He says, no, the two are in the same reference frame. But Earth's still rotating with the atmosphere in the same reference frame. It's like, number one, that doesn't give you 15 degrees an hour of the Earth rotating underneath as a separate reference frame. And number two, it violates how gas behaves. It's not Velcroed to Earth. Number three, you're begging the question that Earth's turning, rather than proving it with a deflection of Coriolis. So you're just going to assume Earth's turning, and assume that atmosphere travels with it, even though we've got multiple directions of surface winds, violating that nonsense altogether. But either way, you're just going to beg the question that Earth's spinning, and there is no reference frame change when things leave the spinning, non-inertial claim to be spinning Earth. Well, then you don't have Coriolis, but these people don't understand Coriolis effect. Simon Dan's a prime example.
Yes, I was isolating just Earth rotation, not atmosphere with Earth rotation, which is silly. They throw that in because Earth's not rotating.
Well, yeah, that's their justification for why they don't have 15 degrees an hour deflection, as they claim they do. So they just beg the question, well, Earth's still turning, it's just turning with the atmosphere, so no deflection. Well, deflection's what you need to prove it is spinning. Not just a begging the question fallacy that violates how gas behaves, because we have multiple directions of surface winds. Earth and atmosphere aren't travelling as one as you assume Earth's spinning, not giving you Coriolis effect to prove it's spinning. That's just nonsense.
It definitely is.
Yeah, it's not top two. Number three, I would say, as that's their claim. Spinning ball in a vacuum. Then the spinning bit's debunked with the lack of Coriolis effect on Earth. The space bit's debunked with the second law of thermodynamics. And the ball bit's debunked with the black swan. So top three. Black swan just edges out sky vacuum. Just.
When you convert the 15 degrees at the outer edge of the circumference of the Earth, it's over 1,000 miles at the equator, miles per hour, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
1,000.
so if you're in an airplane 30,000 feet, it's got to be a little bit more, right?
I don't know about it being a little bit more if you're in a plane. What do you mean?
If the atmosphere is turning at the same way the Earth is, it's got to be a little bit more.
Yeah, that, again, violation of the first law if it's increasing momentum.
No, I know. Just go with me here.
Okay.
So it's got to be, so the atmosphere has to be turning with the equator miles per hour. Let's just say the same, 1,039 miles per hour. Well, a plane only flies 500 miles per hour at the usual commercial plane. How's it ever getting anywhere?
Right. Should be fighting Earth turn underneath. I mean, Mitchell from Australia's done a really good point.
He did a great job.
Mitchell, yeah, he's done a great job because he's pointing out that the ISS have got star rotation when this is supposed to be a claimed effect from a non-inertial spinning reference frame. In other words, the stars are only appearing to go in their circle because we're rotating underneath. Therefore, what the hell's going on with this ISS showing us these rotational patterns, when they're in the inertial reference frame, according to their bullshit claim that they're in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum, well, then they're definitely not attached to the spinning non-inertial claimed to be spinning Earth as a reference frame. They're definitely not claimed to be in that falling around Earth, not attached to it, as claimed to be in space, a violation of natural law in itself. But they can't produce star rotations. That's supposed to be an effect that we see because we're rotating underneath the sky, with us rotating causing those movements. So what the hell are the ISS doing showing it us? Just violates the idea that we're spinning, demonstrates beyond all certitude that they're faking these images, and debunks Coriolis effect. It's just a 3-for-1 in that little bullshit CGI nonsense that they presented that said they got star trails from the ISS. Well, a load of crap.
You remember a month or so ago, I put up all those pictures of star trails and motion and camera and all that? You recall that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Remember I said they took the star trails from Earth and pasted it up on top of the Earth on the because it's the same rotation. It's
very
the same
shoddy
rotation that it's the same thing you see from Earth, right? According to them, except the Earth is going 1,039 and the doggone ISS is 90 minutes. It goes around the Earth. So those star trails, if the ISS was in perfect rotation like the Earth is, would be a different image, but it's not. It's all fake. It's all pasted.
I think it's too blatantly fake. I think it's fake for a reason, so you can argue about Coriolis effect with the opponent getting another opportunity to beg the question of Earth spinning and whether or not it's going to cause these star rotations and how the various motions may or may not cause it on the ISS, which is automatically assumed to be in a violation of natural law when argued about. So it's just another, argue all day about whether or not this could be done from space, when space has been debunked. So any pictures that come from the ISS, it might be the case that we end up utilising this, like Neil deGrasse Tyson's assertion of how Coriolis should work and how ISS debunks it. But for me, it's just like any picture that comes from there is automatically fake. It's claimed to be taken from a sky vacuum. Definitely not real then. Doesn't matter what they're presenting. But if you're going to go into the idea that they've got fake pictures from a sky vacuum, then you can say, well, how have they got star rotation when that's an apparent effect of us rotating underneath the stars while they've got these pictures from the sky vacuum whilst claiming to be rotating around us? It's just totally absurd.
Well, they know the masses are sheep and they're treating them as such, treat them as sheep.
Or they're letting us know in a roundabout way.
Nice pun.
Boom, boom.
Circular reasoning, good one. Yeah, it's all phony, man. I mean, it's just nonsense. But if you want to believe it, go ahead, RC Micey.
Listen, the evidence is there. They show us, they tell us. If you read the books, you can see it's bullshit.
Yeah,
like I said, use your brain, use your senses. Challenge everything.
No, they're telling you how to think. You don't need to use your brain or your senses if you're a heliocentrist. If you adhere to that worldview, then the priests tell you how to think. And how not to think, I might add.
That's why I'm saying, think.
It's the perfect religion for conformist morons. Got their little priesthood, telling everyone how credible they are because they're science. Lying priests.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you all about what heaven is. Even claim to go there.
Yep. Well, it's all falling apart. The Black Swan, major blow to them. Can you put up 3 images in on the put in master B? I'd like to talk about it. It came up from yesterday's show, I think. Hold on one second. Let me get it up there first.
trimmed out a clip from yesterday's show. I'm going to release it after the live show. I've already scheduled it. Should really do that. I'll get that link together so I can spam it.
Okay, here we go. Tell me when you got it.
Okay, I've got them. Do you want me to put them up now?
Yeah, I'll talk about it now.
2 texts and a picture. Do you want me to start with the picture?
Yeah. Yeah, picture first. That's Suez Canal. Aerial shot of the Suez Canal. Over 100 miles long. Mediterranean to the Red Sea. Thought.co, 101 miles long, 984 feet wide. They've stretched it, I guess. Wasn't always that way. Today's Suez Canal is operated by the Suez Canal Authority. The canal itself is 101 miles or 160 kilometers long and 984 feet or 300 meters wide. It begins at the Mediterranean Sea at a point said, flows through Ismail in Egypt and ends in Suez at the Gulf of Suez. It also has a railroad running its entire length parallel to its west bank. The Suez Canal can accommodate ships with a vertical height, draft 62 feet, 90 meters, or 210,000 deadweight tons. Next slide. No locks. The Suez Canal has no locks because the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea Gulf of Suez have approximately the same water level. Over 100 miles, Nathan? Isn't that supposed to be Earth curve of over 6,000 plus feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
This should be
enough said.
Demonstrating Earth curve. Water levels level.
Yeah. Enough said. You can't even get through the skinny Panama Canal without locks because it's actual elevation. Here, the Suez is over 100 miles. It doesn't need any because it's the same sea level.
Good stuff. Thank you very much.
Yeah, quick, easy.
Good morning, all.
Hey, Paul.
Good morning. I like that name, All.
Yeah, it's my last name. Well, it's all together. Paul or Hall and All. I guess it's all together.
Good morning, All. Paul.
The video that I'm going to be releasing after this live show finishes is the rumpus. So Anthony explained to me on a call before the show that the rumpus wanted to come in to defend Thunderfoot. I'm like, I don't need him. And he talked me into it. Hence, at the end, when he did terribly, Anthony was apologetic because he instigated that. I wouldn't have tolerated it, but I knew in advance because he'd spoken to me that he wanted to come in to defend Thunderfoot. I'm like, okay, fine. So I've trimmed that little section out because it was priceless.
Yeah, I was there. They just can't even do that right.
He got annihilated.
Totally.
And then he claimed he'd lost, said I couldn't debate. Said I'd lost, rather. No, you can't debate. When we've come to an impasse because he's asserting he can demonstrate gas pressure without a container. How? Well, we've got a downward vector of gravity. Okay, well, how can you show this? With a scale. You can show this with gas on a scale. Wouldn't that require a container? That doesn't matter.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like Ed Freeze with Alberuni. I don't care.
Yeah. What's that? You say we can't see the geometric horizon. It's a straw man to assert that we should. Well, then Al Baruni can't see it to measure it. That doesn't matter. So
Yeah,
what?
nothing matters.
Doesn't matter when I
It seems
lose.
like, yeah, that does seem like their new tactic now. It doesn't matter. I've heard that a lot on Discord. lately.
You've annihilated my argument. It's not important. It's just denial. It's just that is the instant regression down the scale. So, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Well, they're just regressing. So they've come with an argument in their mind. They're going to win. Got us pegged. Straw man, right? Peace statement. Their religious belief, in essence. Tell them their own religious belief's a straw man when you assert it. So, okay, peace statement with geometric horizons is a straw man. So we can't see geometric horizons. because that's your assertion that it's a straw man. We can't expect to see geometric horizons. Then Al-Biruni can't see and shouldn't expect to see geometric horizons. So you can't derive R. End of globe Earth model. That is the implosion of the model, the end of the argument, full stop on the entire event to do with flat Earth and globe Earth. What's the response to that? That's not important. It's not important that I can't beg the question with an assumption that it can be measured when I'm defending the fact that it can't. Who cares?
Well, the problem that, by the way, that is handing them their position in a practical, verifiable way. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius, so we're saying, okay, we'll beg the question, but we'll only do it if it can be verified, and then they lose big time.
Well, then they tell us that us begging the question on their behalf, in other words, asserting their religion and its parameters and an affirmative statement in P, is a straw man. Don't assert our religion back to us to only debunk it. That makes the assertion of our religion a straw man. Well, the P statement is if Earth's a sphere. So that's a straw man. Welcome to flat Earth.
Yeah, that is their mistake, because they want assumption. They don't want Earth as an actual sphere that can be tested or not tested. They want an assumption. It's just the whole assumption is what they're pushing. The thought experiment. It's a Jedi mind trick. It doesn't even exist. But since it doesn't, it can't be proven. But the minute you say, hey, I got a way of proving it, if P, the Earth, is a sphere. No, don't do that, because that makes us look bad.
Well, the shape of the Earth isn't a deduction or a logical conclusion. It's an observation.
It's a measurement if it's real.
As QE would say, not a scientific question. It's one of observation. It's a what is question.
No, you've already given us the radius, R.C. Maisty. We know what a circle is. We know what a circumference is. And once you know the radius, you can figure it out from there, from the observer height. This is your own language from your own science departments.
Cool.
It's just geometry. You're not going to avoid geometry.
Maths, not science. Just measuring something. Measuring something you can't see.
Oh, but they'll take
more
two sticks
specifically,
in a well.
Just observing something.
No, that's the point. You can't observe it. We wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon. The horizon that is geometric cannot be seen. The geometric horizon cannot be seen because of atmosphere. We wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon. The geometric horizon only exists in maths. So when R.C. Meister, you say it's just about observing something, au contraire, we cannot see Earth curve. That's a geometric horizon. Used to be the thing that blocked boats and boat buildings with its physicality. So no, it's not just about observing, because we can't observe this geometric horizon. Neither could Al-Biruni. So he couldn't get R, the thing you use to bend light, to move the horizon when it becomes a big problem that it doesn't match up with the geometry you assert, blocks boats and buildings with its physicality and Earth curve edge called geometric horizon. You can't observe that, R.C. Massey. So no, not about observing. You can't observe Earth curve. Didn't you know? Stunned silence.
Well, don't the priests say you cannot see the geometric horizon? So how's that an observation if you can't see it?
Yeah, we can't see Earth curve. That's right. It only exists in maths. Al-Biruni definitely didn't measure it. Didn't get you an R value. Definitely wasn't acquired from looking at Earth from space. So we don't see Earth curve. No one can see Earth curve. We wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. Earth curve only exists in Earth curve maths.
And Al-Biruni didn't have any idea of refraction on top of all that.
He wouldn't need to. He's supposed to be doing geometry and deriving a geometric R value. So when they come back at us with, no, he didn't account for refraction, that's because he's supposed to be doing geometry, deriving an R value. That's a geometric value to a tangent point. What he thinks he can see in the form of a horizon you call Earth curve, and simultaneously tell us we can't see it, it can't be measured, it only exists in maths. So Earth curve only exists in maths.
My point with the refraction backline or comeback from them is that they'll say, even though he didn't do refraction, he got very close, within 200 miles of the circumference. But then he couldn't see the actual geometric, so how did he get close to what?
Close to something that they can't see and only exists in maths. Yeah, you
Right.
can't verify it or measure it to claim that you're within 5% of it, though, can you? So it still only
Nope.
exists in maths. His reification of a physical horizon into the horizon he saw and measured as though it was physical and geometric, that assumption of physicality is within 5% of the reification fallacy that used to be called heliocentrism back in the day, when people believed that nonsense and thought the Earth curve edge was represented at the horizon. It was within 5% of the maths that they laid down when they ignored perspective and turned your world side on. Within 5% of that maths that only exists in maths and only has Earth curve edges in that maths. It's within 5% of that reification, you know, if you're to assume that the horizon's physical when it's not. Comes within 5% of maths that isn't real. Amazing, isn't it? Who cares? The horizon's not a physical Earth curve edge. It's not your edge. The edge, you know, the edge you thought boats were going over and being blocked by. It's not that. It's definitely not physical. We wouldn't expect to see physical geometry blocking boats and buildings. We're being told that by the globe side. How we wouldn't expect to see this geometric horizon that only exists in maths and used to block boats and buildings. And we used to get told in feet and inches, regardless of distance, completely ignoring angular size, how much this horizon blocked boats and buildings in feet and inches. Amazing that, considering we don't see it anymore. And it only exists in the maths. Stupid thing. Having trouble with my launching my intro at the same time as starting the live stream. I don't know why. It's gone wrong twice in a row now. But I caught it this time.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Paul Hall, Chocolate Sayin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Any signs of a physical Earth curve edge, formerly blocking boats and buildings and called Earth curvature?
Not from the Suez Canal.
According to R.C. Meisty, it's the curvature is observable. Observable. I can't even say the word this morning. Observable. It's out there. You can see it. But
No, we're currently being told That got corrected before the pre-show, just for the audience's benefit. So, no, we're being told how we wouldn't expect to see a geometric horizon. That's Earth curve. How the geometric horizon only exists in Earth curve maths. That's Earth curve only exists in Earth curve maths. So, no, we don't see it. We're told, if we assert that we should see this physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, at the horizon, as asserted by their maths, we're told that that's a straw man to assert such thing. When we debunk it with the black swan, we're told that the assertion that Earth is a sphere is a straw man. Because we say if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, as asserted by the heliocentric model, then every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height. That's globe-Earth geometry. Now, when we assert that and then debunk it by showing a horizon that's obviously not physical, horizons aren't physical, and is obviously not Earth curve edge, because it's way in excess of the geometry asserted by Earth curve edges that used to block boats and buildings, we're told that the assertion that we would have an Earth curve edge is a straw man. Of course, we just laugh and say, welcome to flat Earth. Yeah, we would agree. To assert that we should have Earth curve geometry is indeed a straw man. We don't. We wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. Earth curve only exists in Earth curve maths.
Yeah, but Dr. Michelle Thaler, an inductee in the Space Hall of Fame, says the boats that go over the ocean are blocked by physical Earth curve.
Yeah, she needs to get with the programme. She's not keeping up to date with the flat Earth debate. Given that we are being told that we would not expect to see Earth geometry, and the Earth geometry, Earth curve, geometric horizons, the Earth curve edge she's saying is blocking boats and buildings, only exist in Earth curve maths. So no, Michelle. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Oh, hold on, Nathan, before you move too far away from that. The only other thing they have is the sharpshooter fallacy.
The what fallacy?
We see things disappear. The sharpshooter fallacy. You know, where we make an observation, it matches our prediction, so that's proof of our curvature. So they can find all these pictures that show boats disappearing from bottom up, and that backs their current rhetoric.
I mean, refraction.
Really?
Refraction.
Where is the prediction for that horizon that's 10 times further than where it should be? Where's that prediction?
That results in us being told that we wouldn't see the geometric horizon, that we wouldn't expect to see Earth curve geometry, and that the geometric horizon that's Earth curve only exists in Earth curve mathematics. So it doesn't. It only exists in the maths chocolate. A horizon isn't a physical Earth curve edge obstruction blocking boats and buildings. We wouldn't expect to see that. That only exists in Earth curve maths. However, if you reify the horizon into a physical Earth curve edge by way of mathematical reification of the model that only exists in maths, then you can get the horizon to look within 5% of the mathematics that shows you and your own head in a picture that doesn't have your own head when you take it with a camera. In other words, the maths that ignores perspective completely. That maths gets within 5% on a given day when it's within 5%, of course.
Yeah, but Nathan, at best, you've only debunked the radius of the Earth.
Yeah, they can no longer acquire it by way of a measurement to a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, which we're told is a straw man. Even though Al Bruni's measuring it to give him the R, to later bend light at the same rate of R.
Right.
You mean the Earth is a sphere, is a straw man now?
That's what they tell us when we debunk that they can't have the geometry they lay down in their mathematics. They tell us that to assert Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles is a straw man assertion. That's what we're told.
That's pretty
It's
funny.
their straw man assertion.
They've been begging to beg the question for years now. We finally say, okay, if your Earth is a sphere and it's got a certain radius, we'll see this. And they tell us, well, it's not a sphere of a certain radius. That's a straw man. What? How does that work?
Chocolate. They're jealous. Only we can interpret the radius, not you guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
we do it.
Only we can beg the question.
That's bad business. Okay.
Well,
gotcha.
maybe the pole Earth is just getting a little bit older and it's getting a bit of a belly, so it's gained some radius. It's gained some
Yeah,
weight.
it's put on weight. Hey, Sleeping Warrior in our room, by the way.
Hey.
Hey, Tony.
Yo,
we move
what's
on
up,
to-
Riley?
We move on to
Chocolate,
axial
you made it
rotation.
out of bed today, did you?
Yes, I made it out of bed. Thank you.
You lazy little shit, yeah?
Hey, well, wait a minute. I just thought of something. If the Earth is put on weight, that means the gas particles put on weight as well, right? Because there's more attraction, there's more weight now, more mass, attracting mass going on.
I'm pretty sure this has already been incorporated into the rebellious gas particles narrative. You know, after they get to their swinging at the Carmen line party, we're not going to obey natural law stage. After a few years, you know, they all eat a few too many cakes, and then they put on weight. And then they come back down whether they like it or not, because they're big fat gas particles, having eaten too many cakes.
But well, hold on. It's past the Carmen line party now. Now we have the after party because the rebellious gas particles have another chapter that go past the moon, according to their little narrative.
That's right.
Well,
yeah, there's a certain... It was the 60s particles, 50s and 60s. They rebelled and stayed at the Carmen line. But then in the 90s, although this was kept well under wraps, there was a certain sect or faction of gas particles that went, you know what? We're going to the moon. Yeah, that's right. We're going to the moon. You lot, you fat, rebellious gas particles at the Carmen line, you can stay here and eat your cakes, because we're off to the moon.
Hey, Chocolate, on Nathan's cake, which layer is the Carmen line?
Arbitrary.
Well, wait a minute, though. Here's something else. I just thought of something else that's happened. They had a committee. You know, they put a committee determining what laws are. And so that's also something that happened. These rebellious gas particles got together and put a committee in place to determine what laws are. That's what they did. So they can make their own rules at that point if they determine whatever law they want at this point. That's another aspect of this.
Quick shout out to Shatner's Bassoon, who says, quote, "The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. Full stop. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." End quote. Albert Einstein. Right on. Yeah, the world that you've created, pseudo-Ramonian four-space bending space-time, is merely conceptual and can only be changed if you change your concepts of things. But that's all they were to begin with. It didn't actually change the world at all, merely change people's thinking. But that's not the world, is it? It's their world, Fundy's world, Globehead's world, is a conception of this space that they think they live in, given them by people like Einstein and Hawking's.
It was, Chocolate, you were there, I think, last night. Didn't some of the ballers admit that time and space is not physical? Didn't they admit that? Was you there?
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So now if that's the case, how can something not physical cause something to happen? Cause an event? Please
It can't.
explain, ballers.
It can't. This is being covered on Ballbusters at the moment in the Master of Science presentation, so in a couple of weeks' time we'll do part 2. But in part 1, we were covering dependent variables as opposed to independent variables, natural phenomena. And like with independent variables, well, one of the criteria is that it's actually got to be occurring. It's actually got to be something that's happening. The effect has got to be real. You've got to actually be able to observe the effect. So when they say, oh, well, bending space-time's an effect, it's the effect of the uneven distribution of mass, of course. All right, show us this effect. Show us it.
But
What
it's
you'll
not
actually...
physical, though. That's it.
Go on.
Well, actually, technically, Nathan, if it's not physical, okay, or made of anything of matter or energy, they can never show it to you.
So it's not an
It's
effect.
immaterial.
So it's not an observable phenomenon. It's not an effect, then. It's not an effect you need to fathom the cause for if you can't observe it happening. Yeah. Gravity, the bending of pseudo, the clue is in the title, it's a pseudo geometry. Pseudo Ramonian force space, that's length, breadth, depth, and time. The bending of that space-time, because according to them, the cause of this bending space-time, they've already got down in the maths too. That's the uneven distribution of mass. Yeah? That effect cannot be observed. It's merely a mathematical reification. It doesn't exist. You'll never show it. Now, you might get the odd fundy who attempts to point at a light in the sky and start talking about orbital mechanics, an assumption they will foist upon you, unless you're wise and savvy and realise where they're begging the question and asserting their fundamentalist religious belief, and then utilising their mathematics to claim to prove their mathematical reification when pointing at the sky and saying, I've described that mathematically here. Well, Einstein has.
can I top that and have another special fallacy plea? Special plea fallacy.
Oh, yeah, you're on a roll at the moment with your special pleading. Go ahead.
Right. So, yeah, what if the bending of space-time could be proven by going to Mars and then noticing how the mass of Mars is supposedly smaller than Earth, so the gravity displacement should be less? That would prove that space-time will be bent less by less mass. Right?
We have this method called the scientific method, and it establishes the cause of natural phenomenon. Now, as I just explained in the Master of Science Part 1, Ball Busters, it is going through what is required to be a phenomenon. Now, you've got to actually observe, not assume that this could be a potential thing that exists, and then say, the way I'm going to prove this thing that I've assumed exists is by travelling to a light in the sky I assume is a sphere, based on Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion, based on Christian Huygens' assumption that Venus is the same size as as Earth when assumed to be a radius value that can't be measured by Al-Biruni, based on Al-Biruni assuming the spheres because of Aristarchus observing shadows in the sky. You're going to tell me that based on all of those assumptions, you can prove something that you haven't actually observed by travelling to a light in the sky based on the assumption of Venus being the same size as Earth and Earth being a sphere based on a shadow on the light in the sky. That's what you're going to do with all those assumptions preceding it, right, Arwin? My God, that was a mouthful.
But they just went to it. So they should arrive there any moment now, and then they can prove it.
Where's it? You've got to be more specific.
To Mars.
No. Excuse me. You think they've travelled to a little red dot in the sky through a sky vacuum based on the distances that they have assumed, based on Christian Huygens' assumption of Venus being the same size as Earth, Earth being a sphere based on Al-Biruni's measurement of R to a horizon that isn't a horizon and isn't Earth curve, and him doing that because Aristarchus assumed Earth was a sphere because of a shadow on a light in the sky. You're telling me that based on all of this, we can actually travel to this light in the sky, even though the journey would involve travelling through a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum to get to this claimed to be rock in the sky that's actually a light in the sky.
Well, they have to get there somewhere, but the launch, they did have very convincing footage with only 3 transitions from cameras, and they ended up with this really great 3D animated live representation of the orientation of the thing with curved Earth underneath it.
I see.
Just to reinforce that. It was just very convincing. I think they might be able to do it.
So, in terms of the resurrection of Aslan, how many angles?
Well, at least 3.
At least 3 for you to be absolutely convinced that this lion was resurrected in a place that has a time dilation issue. Obviously, I'm now going to argue about the time dilation and how it's resolved, because I've fantasized that there's a time dilation problem in this area called Narnia, and that time is actually going much, much slower than it is perceived to be going in this place through a wardrobe that we travel to. So this time dilation I'm going to argue about at quite a long period, for an extended period of time, so that we can segue the fact that 3 cameras only is required for you to believe that a lion was resurrected in this area that has a time dilation problem, correct?
Yeah, but I think that the animation from the lion resurrection was a little bit less convincing because we were kind of like pre-told before that it was fiction. And I don't think they did that with this Mars launch, even though it did kind of look silly in many ways.
Well, no, the priests often tell people how you can think of things as being real when they're not. And they actually tell you in the next breath. For example, gravity is not a force. But you can think of it as a force. So they just tell you how to fantasize the story and how to play it out and what you should think in order to realize this reification. And then accept the pictures that they send you through the telly box from a place you'll never go because it doesn't exist. Like Narnia. But you're saying because they explicitly tell you Narnia is not real.
Wait, I got a better one. You don't even have to go there. You just go find the old Mars rover. It should have like a gravimeter, and it can tell you exactly how strong the gravity is on Mars.
But the Mars rover went through the same exact travelling process through a second law of thermodynamics violation based on a distance to a red light in the sky given to them by an assumption that Venus has the same radius as Earth, when they assume Earth has a radius based on a measurement by Al-Biruni that he couldn't get because they couldn't see Earth curve, and he's only making that measurement because Aristarchus assumed the Earth was a sphere to begin with, to give him the distances when applying Kepler's third law. But based on all that nonsense and the violation that is a sky vacuum, you're telling me that they've already sent something there, and that sounds very similar to the retroreflectors, Arwin.
Yeah, they found water and everything.
They've not found water. Really? Oh, it's only happened about 5 times and then got erased from the narrative. That never-ending finding water on Mars. Yeah, they can't get to Mars through a sky vacuum. Go on, Paul. I know you've been itching to get in there. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, even in Narnia, they had eyewitnesses that traveled to this Narnia, came back. They even saw Aslan's death and resurrection. I mean, I'm sorry, but this does seem to be bad, but that's what their argument would be, because we've had people travel there. We've had people travel to the moon, and they're eyewitnesses to this downward vector of the moon having 616 gravity. So there you go. We do have
you mean the eyewitnesses in the form of the alcoholic astronauts that are all depressed and contradicting each other in terms of what they saw of the stars? Those eyewitnesses.
Yeah, Dr. Michelle Thaler said her friends are astronauts and she knows they went there and came back. That's what she says.
Did they bring her a postcard?
No, just a dumb rock.
Yeah, they're lying to you, Michelle. The reason we know is because they're claimed to be travelling in a sky vacuum. Well, we've got this natural law here called entropy. Second law of thermodynamics dictates that if the sky was a vacuum, where your friends are lying to you about travelling to, lying to you, Michelle. Yeah, that's right. Let's call it like it is. The people who say they go to Narnia, my bad. The people who say they go to space are liars. There's no two ways about this. And I'm more than content to piss on the graves of these astronauts. I've done it with, what's his name? M. Scott Veitch, to his face, as much as you can over these internet affairs. His dad lied to him as a child, just flat out lied to him, told him went to Narnia, told him he'd been to outer space, a place that cannot be real. So these people are liars. They're the only example that I can say that. There's plenty of others that you'd love to say, yeah, you're just a liar. You can't necessarily prove that. I can prove all astronauts who claim to go to space are liars. Fact. Because they have not. The place they claim to go violates natural law. So, like with M. Scott Veitch and his father lying to his face, these people who've told this Michelle Thaler that they've been to space, they've lied to your face.
That must be painful for M. Scott Veitch, man. Poor guy.
Yeah, very painful. I'd be ashamed if my father had looked me in the eye and told me he'd been to space. Now, given that I know unequivocally that that's not a real place.
As I.
But that's his cross to bear. That's not my problem.
Well, to be fair, Nathan, space is definitely not the vacuum they say it is. That would make no sense. It's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. But we don't really know how high it goes up. So there might be room up there. It might even work slightly different as what we would expect. But it's not how they say it is, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, currently, space is very well defined. 10 to the minus 17 Tor vacuum. That's what outer space is. And that's where they claim to go. That's where they claim to travel to. That's what they claim to have travelled through to take the Mars rover to the light in the sky based on the distances given to them by an assumption of Venus being the same size as Earth, and Earth being a sphere by way of an Aristarchus assumption based on lights in the sky and what he called shadows, and Al-Biruni measuring a horizon that isn't physical. So this is all nonsense. The sky vacuum is not real. Therefore, all people who claim to have been there are liars.
I mean, I especially believe those guys when, they can't figure out whether they saw stars or not. That makes me believe them so much more. I don't know why you guys don't believe them. They make sense to me.
Oh, I think I saw that YouTube clip where the Massimino was one of the astronauts. The other one was that goofy one, and all he does is sound like yeah, that's right, yeah.
And you
like,
see
what?
stars. You see the zodiacal lights. Yeah, that's how he sounds.
I think you're talking about Michael Collins, though, aren't you? So, what's the guy who did this?
No, not Michael Collins. The other guy, the guy who says
Don Pettit.
the guy we lost the information, all that NASA information.
Well, then you gotta leave.
Telemetry.
There's a few of them because Michael Collins with the little elbow bump from Neil Armstrong. Then you got Chris Hadfield, who himself has been supposedly in the tin can that's up there, the ISS, but he has been on camera both times saying, "Oh, it's the blackest of black, and then it's the brightest of bright."
Well,
So he can't figure that out.
Chocolate. How'd they get those star trails from the ISS then?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Perfect timing.
Apparently now their equipment's a little better because now all of a sudden you can see stars from the ISS. Isn't that cute?
Anthony, are you there? Sleeping Warrior. Hello, Sleeping Warrior.
I am. I'm busy dealing with John Watson being a massive troll in chat.
Right, if you can draw yourself away from the chat for temporarily. Any chance you can regurgitate your back and forth conversation with Mitchell from Australia? Any chance you can share that with the public audience? I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
Do you mean on screen, or do you mean
just no? You don't have to share it on screen, but if you can just read out your exchange between you and he over the last 24 hours, I'd be very grateful because I was riveted while you were reading it out to me this morning.
Okay, I'll do it in my best reading voice. I messaged him this morning, 9:10, and I said, if Coriolis effect applies to Earth, as you correctly point out, the stars must stop turning as we get off the Earth. They say that planes are still in our frame of reference. Bullshit, but let's give it to them for now. NASA claim that the International Space Station also sees circumpolar star trails. Just do a search on YouTube for star trails, ISS, NASA. That cannot happen. They are definitely in the inertial frame of reference, so one of two things is true. Either NASA are faking space, or Earth is not turning, or both. The stars must stop turning once we get off the Earth. The International Space Station is defo in that inertial frame of reference. That's your next video, bud. Then his response was, I agree. Star trails are impossible from the International Space Station, and it absolutely must be in the inertial frame of reference because it goes round the Earth every 90 minutes or so. Nowhere near lockstep with rotation, as they say that everything else is. It isn't powered flight, so there's no control over its trajectory, and is claimed to be falling perfectly around the globe, completely independent of any rotating frame of reference. They must be in the inertial frame of reference. Therefore, star trails are impossible, and the pictures are completely faked. Even if Earth was a globe, it doesn't work on their model. And I said, yes, linear movement, rotation, no. They can't have circumpolar star rotation in the inertial frame of reference from the International Space Station, because that's what they tell us is the cause of circumpolar star trails, the Earth turning. Well, when you're not in that turning frame of reference anymore, like the international, let's be honest, even a Cessna jet at 20,000 feet isn't in that frame of reference anymore. It's off it. Them circumpolar star trails stop turning because you're not on that rotating frame of reference anymore. So yes, they might zip past your window, but they ain't going to be doing circumpolar star trails. So it's proof that NASA are faking their evidence. Mitchell is completely right.
Yeah, another big shout out to Mitchell from Australia. Good job.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like he's taken my question about the hurricanes and why they appear to continue to rotate in the inertial reference frame and extended it out to the stars. Way to go.
I think actually you'll find he's taken my evidence of how drones wouldn't drift on a roundabout and he's extended that out to debunk the stars. I think he's stolen it from me, actually, Chocolate.
Oh, no, the hurricane's higher than the merry-go-round, damn it. But yeah, it's a great point, man.
I'd like to want, like most people, basically, most ballers generally give us a buy or a pass on NASA because they kind of accept that neither side can verify or validate any evidence that NASA claims because none of us can get up to where they claim they're giving us the evidence from. So they kind of just give us a buy. There's only Jeremy that I know that actually argues stuff from NASA. Everybody else just lets us away with it because, like, they realize, right? But if there's any baller that can argue why it is that International Space Station footage is showing circumpolar star trails, we need to hear that because it's the whole point of the Earth turning, causing the sky rotating. That's what you tell us is causing it, Earth rotation. But the International Space Station is definitely not in our non-inertial frame of reference, is it? It's definitely out of it. So what's the explanation, guys?
Is that a brand new thing? The star rotation from the ISS?
No, they've had it out for a while, but we've only just picked up on it because these topics get more and more refined over time, don't they? And we realize that, hang on a minute, and it's so blatantly, obviously wrong that it's like maybe they did it on purpose to see how long it takes for us to spot it.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because I don't know, the old footage, I don't remember seeing stars. The stars from the ISS thing to me is new. I haven't seen too many videos with stars from the ISS.
You're worrying too much about this. I appreciate that in the lore of space, they used to not have stars in the footage, and now suddenly we've got stars in the footage. But because it's a region, as Anthony's just detailed, that you're never going to verify anything from, and in technical terms can't exist because of the second law of thermodynamics. But that aside, because that is where their narrative's coming from, it's like Narnia. If I decide that we need 5 camera angles on Aslan, rather than just 3 to convince the audience he's come back to life, then let it be so. Now, if in the story of Narnia in the screenplay, there is no stars in Narnia, then so it be. However, if in 10 years from now I decide that actually Narnia could do with some stars, and we refilm it with 30 cameras on the resurrection scene, and there is stars, then I can just explain why the stars now, and why there wasn't stars before. Well, it would be the camera technology, wouldn't it? Obviously. I can make up anything I like from space.
It wasn't sensitive enough back then.
Yeah, you got it, Arwin. I could just make up any old crap.
Well, the reason I ask is because it would be kind of funny if, they started doing this now because people are starting to say, hey, why don't we see stars from the ISS? And then they just started, obviously the stars rotate, so let's just make them rotate from the ISS, not thinking, hey, they're only supposed to be rotating because we're on a spinning non-inertial reference frame, aka globe Earth, that's rotating from west to east.
Make a note of this show. Make a note of this show. 1, 2, 2, 3. Right. This is going to be one of them things that they're going to have to retrospectively change. They're going to have to remove the previous video showing circumpolar star trails from the ISS. They're all going to come out as straight lines now. Yeah, you can have your straight lines, but you can't have your circumpolar ones. So they're all going to get removed now. They're going to have to
download them.
But I don't really get it. How much is a cycle? How long does it take for the ISS to go around the Earth? Does it take 24 hours?
90 minutes.
It's like 90 minutes.
Right. So that means there's definitely going to be star trails.
Hold on. Stop.
They're just going to be the other way around.
Stop. This is why this is happening. I've got to get this out of the way. I'm going to nip this in the bud straight away. So before we've even tried to explain what's going on in terms of how they acquire the circly looking lights in their CGI, right, before we've even done that, we're into assuming that they're in an orbit, falling around an assumed spherical Earth, and the duration of this assumed falling around an assumed sphere Earth is 90 minutes. Then we get to they're in space. So they're falling with a presupposed orbit around a presupposed Earth in a presupposed violation of natural law to acquire these star trails. So what we're going to do, we're going to beg the question 3 times over just so we can have this argument with Globers, because that's the point in this. They make it so terrible so that when the argument comes around, like rockets working in a vacuum, so that you can assume they've left a sphere Earth and travelled through a sky vacuum, rather than debunking the idea that we've got a sphere Earth in the first place and a sky vacuum and an orbit for it to fall in. It's got none of those things. They're all assumptions.
Nathan, I got some images and
the point was brought up, and when it takes only 90 minutes, that means
That's what I was going to say.
It's going to be faster than the star trails. It's actually going to catch up on it. Technically,
that's what I was gonna say.
presuming that it was taken from real footage, which it probably was. I don't think it's like 3D animatedly placed in there. It's just plain footage that they just interjected into it a green screen fashion. So,
Nathan, I got images for you.
I've got it. Thank you.
We covered this over a month ago.
Yeah, we did. You did cover this very extensively, 10th Man. But yes, it's worth covering again because, mainly because of Mitchell from Australia. You know, he's pointing out that we have the star movement is an apparent movement, meaning it's not actually moving. The stars aren't moving in position. They're not moving above our head according to the heliocentric model. We're moving under them. So they're only appearing to move because Earth's turning, giving you these circular motions. Well, that's Coriolis, if you want to detail it as a not actual deflection, because they're not moving, we are underneath, on a rotating, claimed to be spinning Earth. So when you leave the spinning Earth, well then there isn't any apparent movement anymore. There's only the movement of this begging the question falling around Earth, which is what I think they actually want us to argue about. Well, let's detail how these star trails have been acquired, while we automatically all talk and assume about the sphere Earth we're falling around in this begging the question orbit that we're going to claim's happening.
No, that's not what I was doing. I was just pinpointing the origin of the footage. And if you take a plane and you fly it fly it parallel to the equator or slightly north to the equator, then on that plane, if it goes perfectly geometrically straight, and you presume the equator to be a straight line, or you go with the circle, you're going to see in the north the star trail happening on that plane, if it is sensitive enough to pick that up. But since it is flying at incredible speeds past the equator, that means that it's going to, create an apparent circular acceleration.
Okay, I want Anthony to get a word because he's been trying for ages, but we're just juxtaposing two different things against each other in this discussion now. So flying over a plane is very different to the assumption of falling in an orbit around a sphere. And that's what this is claimed to be by way of begging the question and nothing more. So when we say, well, we could potentially see it from a plane or not potentially see it from a plane as it's flying, well, no, because it's not claimed to be flying. It's claimed to be falling. It's claimed to be in a sky vacuum. It's not claimed to be in our atmosphere. Not that air can take a shape unless it's in a container. But that's what they say. So all of those things have now been sidetracked by you saying, well, it's flying over a plane and potentially the star trails are doing X, Y, or Z. Anyway, sorry, Anthony, go ahead.
To round out the point, please let me round it out.
Yeah, okay, go on, Owen.
All I'm saying is that's the origin footage. That's it. Not saying
No, I see. I know what you're saying, and 10th Man made that point initially. It's probably just transposed actual footage layered over the top of it. But how they construct the CGI is kind of, to me, it seems like obvious, but these days I think it's not. You should mention these things, so thank you.
All right.
Continue. Go ahead, Anthony.
If you think about the claim that they take 90 minutes to do a whole orbit, one orbit of the Earth, right? How on earth would they get these circumpolar star trails anyway? Because in the time it takes to get like 15 degrees of Earth turn, that's like an hour, isn't it? But in 90 minutes, they've gone all the way around the Earth. So how are they getting these star trails, even if they could be possible? How could they possibly get it when in the time it takes to get 15 degrees of rotation, it's already pretty much coming back round to where it started from in the first place? It's ridiculous.
At 17,500 miles per hour, no less.
Yeah.
Oh, it's absurd.
By that respect, then, if you were to get in a helicopter and, take off and hover, two things should happen. The Earth should start spinning underneath you, and the stars should stop.
Correct. Because that's the thing they tell us is causing the circumpolar star trails. It's the Earth turning, right?
Yep. So two things should start happening, or one should start and one should stop, and none of that happens. Very nice.
Just to give a quick shout out to Godzilla37, who says they believe in bendy space-time, while calling me crazy for believing in a creator. Anyways, keep up the great work, Nathan and team. Thank you very much, Godzilla37. Really appreciate your support. Thanks for the super chat.
You've got to consider the Earth is at the equator, supposedly turning at 1,039 miles per hour. these star trails, the pictures that I take from California, I'm estimated where I'm at, latitude is 860 miles per hour. I just took some last night. I took some all last month. They look very similar to this picture that you have up there right now with the hay fields, I think, in front of it here from Earth. The problem is the ISS is going 17 times faster than the Earth is supposed to be turning at the equator. So the images would not be the same. Just like you taking a picture at 40 miles per hour in your car and then taking a picture at, say, 250 miles per hour from your car. Everything's going to be zooming past you much faster. Plus, Mitchell said it, is the ISS doing a barrel roll? And in 90 minutes, it's almost around the whole Earth. You can't have that picture like Anthony said. This is an overlay. They're lying again.
So I want someone to address the question: if we got a drone and it was hovering above the Earth, and it was conserving its momentum, right? Conservation of momentum. The stars should stop turning from its perspective, even though it's conserving its momentum, because even though it's going with the Earth's rotation, it's not with the Earth rotation anymore, is it? It's off it. So Chocolate's right. The star trails should stop, and even if it did conserve its momentum, they should become like straight lines across the sky, not circumpolar, because you're not on it anymore.
Right? Every at the beginning in late 2016, when I was investigating star trails and photography for it, it was obvious, certain proof that the stars are turning and not the Earth. And that's why I said star trails is death nail to the Earth reification model that they have. And now that Mitchell put out his video and we're discussing the inner workings, you can see why. Because the navigators to this day that I've contacted via email say we have to assume the Earth is motionless and that the stars are turning for us to do our celestial navigation with the sextant. And I said, why? And the answer was, because it works better that way. Enough said. Wake up, Clovers.
Why would it work better that way if it's just the exact opposite?
Because that's the way it works. And this is the Jedi mind trick. There is no R. There is no rotation. It's just a Jedi mind trick. The whole thing is a thought experiment. It's a mathematical reification, like Nathan has always said. And they got you living in Narnia.
I got something that might confirm that they lied to us. And I don't know if you guys, most of you are probably aware, shout out to Taboo Conspiracy. He seems to get emails from people that are whistleblowers. And here he has, on this video, you can see, and I pulled the transcript up so you can kind of see it, so I don't have to play it. But there's a guy that was doing flight plans for Qantas Air, I think it was. And he said that in their system that they take flat maps and convert it into a globe for flight plans. And he didn't understand why. I think even in the video and in the email, he kind of questioned his employees, why do they do that? And I don't know if they had an answer or not. I don't remember exactly, but I thought that was interesting. And then there was another video that came out the next day. Go to that one. And this guy's from the military. And he remained anonymous on this one. But in this one, he noticed that when they were trying to do GPS coordinate systems in the southern hemisphere, whenever they were trying to do it using the globe and the GPS in the southern hemisphere, their coordinates, their targeting was off. It was inaccurate. Well, the so-called southern hemisphere. And of course, it was one of those things. And there was a skew, you call it ballistic targeting skew guidance, I think, or something like that, that was built into the system that supposedly counted and converted and did all the calculations for them. So it was just another potential confirmation that could the government be lying or withholding something from us. And here's two whistleblowers that may be confirming that.
Yeah, I saw those videos. Well, I saw the first one.
I was going to say I saw the first one. I didn't see this most recent one you've just described.
So again, Nathan,
the one about the southern hemisphere I've not yet seen, but thank you for detailing it. The first one, yes, I had seen the first one. But yeah, this is typical Ben Taboo Conspiracy exposure. Subscribe today to Taboo Conspiracy. Then is ace.
Any ballers want to tell us why the stars are rotating when we're not on the non-inertial spinning reference frame, aka Earth? Please.
Pretty, please.
Cherry on top.
All you're going to get is them begging the question. So you're just going to have them telling you how it's how the ISS is falling around Earth, and then I'll tell you about the speed it's falling around Earth when Earth's assumed to be a sphere. That's what you'll get.
I don't care about the ISS. I'm asking about simply hovering over a, a merry-go-round or just in a helicopter hovering. Why is anything in the sky rotating? The reason for that rotation is because you're on the rotating surface of the Earth.
Well, Chocolate, if they answer because the atmosphere turns with the non-rotating surface as one, then you got a problem with the ISS picture because that has no atmosphere in it.
We also got a problem with the stars because I don't remember them being in the fucking atmosphere.
No, then we got another problem because half the astronauts never saw stars in space, and this group is taking star trails. What's going on?
They're the cool kids group.
Well, it's tough for navigators. For half the time there was no stars. How did we navigate? This is such nonsense. They're there, they're not there. Astronauts elbowing each other.
There's an interesting claim from chat. A guy called Just Phil. He says, I put satellites in orbit, you goof. Think about what that means. I'd like to see the evidence when putting satellites. What did you do? Did you swing it around your head in a catapult and launch it? How did you get them into orbit?
I just said this. So within 30 seconds. So we're assuming orbits then. One physical body falling around another body, in this example, in a sky vacuum. Way to beg the question.
If that guy's name is Just Phil, he's probably making fun of Just Phil.
He's making fun of Just Phil Bell.
Yeah, Professor Phil that's not really a professor. He drives around in a Mercedes, apparently, a 2020
satellites in space.
Apparently, that adds credibility to him.
I see that as embedded confessions. So when somebody like that starts boasting about how much money they earn and how they get paid anyway and how they drive the big posh car, it's like, okay, so what you're telling me is your shallow materialistic nature is good enough for you, or it isn't good enough for you, but telling me about it when you've been defeated in regards to a sky vacuum, for example, where you thought you were sending items and were very proud to have done so, you'd rather just assert that, well, even though I've lost this argument, I'm still getting paid, I drive a very nice Mercedes. It's like, well, if that comforts you in the face of losing the sky vacuum to entropy, or Earth curve to the black swan, or star rotation with Coriolis deviation, if you're somehow upset about those things, you'll find comfort in your materialism that you've rested on your laurels in your heliocentric worldview. It encourages that. In many ways, it's the foundation. So is it a shock that they go, yeah, but I'm doing really well financially? Yeah, okay. I could do the converse. Be very depressing for me to moan out how poor I am, but I'm very happy. I've got very little cognitive stress about the world I live in. However, if I'd gone around telling everyone how proud I was to have sent things to a second law of thermodynamics sky vacuum violation of natural law, then I'd probably be saying, well, I've still got a very nice car though, haven't I? Unlike you've got a rubbish car. Yeah, but I'm really happy.
Nathan, it's called an appeal to Mercedes.
Appeal to what, Anthony?
It's called an appeal to a Mercedes fallacy.
That's what I called it, yeah, in the chat. Appeal to Mercedes fallacy. Right.
I think it's nervousness. I think when you're in a chat like the arena and your arguments are getting destroyed, but you want to assert that, oh, I just make money doing this, so I'm never going to be worried about it. Yeah, that sounds like you're worried about it. Because if you weren't, what are you doing in a flat Earth server arguing with flat Earthers who you think are stupid?
That was kind
What's
of
the
what I
matter
was
with
trying to
you?
say.
Don't you have satellites to go maneuver with your little
Exactly.
joystick?
That's
What are you
what I was
doing?
trying to say, Chocolate. You've said it much better than I did. Exactly. You're projecting it out into the world, and in reality, you're just telling us what you're actually worried about. Like some dude who came here was telling us that he was worried about the Freemasons getting him by saying, aren't you worried that the Freemasons will come after you for exposing the globe lie? No, but it seems you are.
Exactly my point.
Got another super chat
Just
coming
Phil
in.
says it means people pay me a lot of money to put satellites into orbit. I thought you were a teacher. Teachers don't put satellites into orbit.
Unicorn Laser Eye says argument to the purse fallacy.
Nah, it's arguments. It's just it's like it's no different to appealing to the I've got a degree in physics, or I'm or what's that PhD Tony guy? I'm a scientist. He's a geological scientist because he plays with gravimeters all day. Well, it's the same thing. You will respect my Mercedes.
It's overcompensating. So in the same way a man with a small penis will go out and buy a big sports car to compensate for his small penis, these guys lose in their discussion about the nature of reality and say, but I've got a big car though, or I've got lots of money, or I still get paid, or I still get respect. Okay, well that must be very comforting, having lost this argument. Good for you.
Be great if we had a baller that could defend the circumpolar star trails from the ISS point. Rumpus, are you listening? Have you got an explanation for this nonsense? I'm sure what's his face Mitchell will be dealing with this directly, like imminently, because he's right.
Well, based on the big sports car, I guess I'm never going to get one.
Yeah.
Can do a quick plug to a show that's going out as soon as this live stream finishes. So in about 10 minutes time I'll be asking people who are watching the show on premiering stream to stay tuned. But however, the people who are actually watching live right here right now, there's going to be a premiering stream that starts after the show is finished at 3 p.m. UK time. So I've just spammed the link to that. I've already scheduled the show to start at 3 p.m. so it will go out literally as soon as this live stream finishes. So be here or be sphere to see an edited version of Rumpus White Knighting for Thunderfoot. So Anthony, I mentioned this once earlier on the show, but Anthony talked me into having Rumpus on the show to defend Thunderfoot's assertion that gas go down, go boom boom like solid bonded bouncy balls. Now initially I was like, I don't need Rumpus, but Anthony convinced me, and then at the end, good to form, and therefore he's not getting any grief, was like, I should be apologising for the terrible performance of my learned friend here today, because he did terribly.
Yeah. I mean, Rumpus is my favourite baller. He is. He's the one that is the most pain in the ass, obnoxious and annoying. But he demonstrates beautifully how these guys they'll double speak. They'll do everything about. He just does everything. He knows all the tricks. That's why I like him so much.
We do have a geometric horizon. We don't.
Knows all the tricks. You mean he knows how to obfuscate with the best of them?
Yeah, I remember Brandon Toy when he was chatting with GeoStreamer, and GeoStreamer was talking about Etvos effect, and he brought up that graph. I'm sure you've all seen it, the 4-axis graph. And he was about to say that this is reification in the sense that there's no direct supporting evidence to prove that Etvos is true. And Rumpus spotted it, committed a tactical foul, got kicked out in the process. Brandon was literally about to drip it off his tongue that it was reification, and the point got lost because Rumpus realised that Brandon was just about to expose the nonsense. Well, Etvos only works in your model, but there's no evidence it's actually true. So Brandon was about to point that out. Rumpus spotted it, took a tactical foul, got kicked out for it, and then the point got lost.
That's what you got to do, though. When you're on the losing side, then, yeah, it's fouling and fallacies and, whatever it takes, right? Obviously, you don't have your priests doing that. You have nameless, faceless wankers doing it. who have no credibility and none to lose, so it makes no difference if they lie or even defy the priesthood. They can do that down here in the trenches, these nameless faceless trolls that we encounter. Because who cares if we show Rumpus to be wrong, right? Who is Rumpus? Rumpus is a name for a disturbance. A nickname he's given himself to typify what he does.
Yeah, I see that as a tip of the cap and an admission that he knows that he's doing this stuff.
Of course.
By the way, let me give a shout out to Spurs Chemo. Are you aware of what happened last night with Spurs?
I wasn't, but I'm sure I'll catch up with it. I watch a lot of Spurs Chemo recently.
Yeah, he's he got, for some reason, he was on Fight the Flat Earth, and I don't know why he does it, but he went on anyway, and he had that the PhD Tony guy, and the first question that PhD Tony asked him was, and I haven't watched all of this, but it's definitely worth watching. He says to him, "Hey Spurs, just before we get going," he says, "have you done any science since the last time we spoke?" And brilliantly, he asked for a definition for science. And then he started mumbling his words, saying, "Wow, we don't really have any definitions for science. They're all kind of philosophical." And you can't, and because he knew that he was going to start asking about scientific method. And obviously, PhD Tony doesn't comply with scientific method while he's playing around in fields all day with gravimeters. So he's going to be on the side of the interpretation that's very loose with the interpretation, because he wants to be seen as by Spurs and the audience as a scientist, even though he doesn't comply with scientific method and satisfies the definition for pseudoscience. Yet Spurs started asking him for the definition for science, and you want to watch the guy squirm. It's brilliant.
Epic.
Shout out to Spurs. You did great from what I saw so far.
Would you agree with our assessment over the last few days? We're saying that the reason these PhDs are here is because they've recognised that suddenly they've got something to lose in this arena.
Well, the thing is, they can't be PhDs, because if they really were PhDs, the reality would be you wouldn't come into this because you've only got something to lose. You've got no benefit to coming into this topic. But if they chuck in a few blokes with the name Professor Phil Bell and PhD Tony to add a little bit of perceived credibility to their failing, floundering arguments, then yeah, it might appear that way. But it's a bit like Coriolis. It appears that there's a deflection there, but there's not really a deflection. Yeah, that's what's going on now. We're getting these people with these. And have you noticed as well, they've all got these bookcases in the background with books on them, giving the impression that they're intelligent. Fucking hell, if I got my bookcase out and put that in the background, they'd be calling me a fraud or a thief. But when they do it, it's seen as intelligence.
Why are all those comics stolen?
No, not comics. Yeah, they might be stolen. No, the actual books. So a lot of them, like, well, I can't think who now, because I was watching Pipperot, I think it is. I flicked onto her. She happened to be live.
Sorry,
and I noticed they've all got bookshelves.
Pippin Flickbook, did you say? The Beano Annual doesn't count as a book.
No, the Mayfair mags and the Escort mags, they're the ones that are nicked.
Yeah.
You slip them under your top.
Yeah, the annual Playboy, not a book.
Yeah, they've got this perception, though, that creates this. They've got this image going on that creates the perception that they're intelligent because they've got the books in the background. Well, I might just put my books in the background too, and then just see how long it takes before they start doing the opposite and calling me a fake.
They like laughing at us too. So Phil Bell, just Phil Bell in the audience, a Sleeping Warrior. We are here to laugh at you. Is that right? So let's have a quick chuckle at Phil. Phil sat on a panel with people who are laughing at us because we said that water vapour was gas. And, quote, Phil Bell said that was the dumbest thing he'd ever heard, whilst in agreement with his compadres on the Globe side of this argument that water vapour is not gas. Now, I might point out that this guy, just Phil Bell, works in hydrology.
What was he saying that water vapour was if it was not a gas?
He said it was the dumbest thing he'd ever heard when Sean Hawkins said that the flat earthers are saying water vapour's gas. And Phil Bell piped up to say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What a complete idiot. No, we will
Sean
not only...
Hawkins said it was in a gaseous state, but it wasn't gas.
Yeah, and he was there nodding along. Phil Bell nodding along like the complete clown retard that he is. Yeah, he's working in hydrology. I mean, given that that's the case, he should be sacked. And it's no laughing matter when somebody who works in hydrology and claims to be a professor doesn't understand that water vapour's gas. It just makes him a demonstrated retard. But he's in the chat laughing at us for some reason. This guy agrees with all the morons he surrounds himself with when they say water vapour isn't gas, and we're stupid and worthy of laughing at like Phil's laughing now. Are you laughing like you were laughing on that panel, Phil Bell? Because you were laughing at us saying water vapour is gas. That's what you were all laughing about. You said how dumb it was? Is that Is that what you're laughing at now, Phil? Because we're laughing at you morons with your PhDs. Yeah? We're laughing at you. Thunderfoot, he thinks gas behaves like solid with his PhD. A moron like you, Phil. And we're laughing at you morons. Because having your globe faith is an embarrassment when you come to encounter us. Because you make declarations like water vapour is not gas. Or solid behaves like bouncy balls. You're just stupid. Now, I don't actually think Phil Bell's stupid. Just Phil Bell is only demonstrating stupidity because of his religious belief. Often religious zealots make themselves look stupid in defence of their religious faith. Now, just Phil Bell's no exception. He's an idiot. Now, why is he stating that water vapour isn't gas, in agreement with his compadres? Well, because water vapour wouldn't be go down, go boom boom like solid bonded bouncy balls, as asserted by Thunderfoot, with this downward vector of gravity that they all believe in. So when they're all patting each other on the back telling them about downward vectors and gravity, suddenly they've got this problem. That water vapour would defy that, wouldn't it now? As it goes up from the ground, not down. So they deny that it's a gas, not realising they're broadcasting to an audience. And we're laughing at them while they assert it for 3 straight days. That water vapour isn't gas. Because gas going up, well, that's just water vapour. That's gaseous. It's not in defiance of gas go down, go boom, boom like bouncy balls. We all agree downward vector. Stupid flat earthers with their water vapour being gas. How moronic, right, Phil Bell? Maybe you'd like to tell us how you only agreed for a few hours. Or a few days. Yeah? You clown? We're laughing at you, clown. Water vapour is gas, Mr. Professor I work in hydrology. Water vapour is gas. How does it taste to be told by a flat earther, as a professor working in hydrology, that water vapour is gas, you clown moron? How does that taste? It must really sting to have a flat earther telling you as a professor of hydrology that water vapour is gas, you moron. Why would you laugh along with idiots saying that it isn't? You complete idiot. You are laughable. You are a clown, Phil Bell.
Hey, Nathan, he says, what causes fog? So he doesn't understand that condensing water vapour into condensing droplets of water is different to gas vapour. He doesn't realise that there's a difference between condensing vapour and vapour. He thinks that water vapour is fog. Oh dear.
A man who works in hydrology. Like I say, he's in the chat with his laughy face, projecting out how funny this is. Yeah, we find it really funny too, Phil Bell. How funny it is that you were laughing at us for saying water vapour's gas. That's moronic. Anyway, if you are watching this, go on, you have the last word.
Okay, I was to say, if you're going to equate bouncy balls to gas particles, then show these bouncy balls moving in 1,000 miles or 2,000 miles an hour with innate kinetic energy within them. Innate kinetic energy. Then we can talk.
Right on. If you are watching this live, then go over to the premiering stream, which has started now on this channel. So Nathan Oakley 1980 has a premiering stream starting at 3 PM, which is about now-ish. So go over there, be here, be sphere. I'll be in the chat with you, hopefully. If you are watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Trying to get flat earthers to explain the southern star trails, blah blah blah. You know how that goes. But we were all like, what's going on with the star trail argument today? Is something going on? And then we realized, oh shit, Simon Dan, no Simon Dan made a video, and then Mitchell responded to that video, and it was just on this point. So it seems like these guys get their little updates from Simon Dan and all these other losers like Wolfie and all these guys. and then they have their talking points for the day or the week.
Yep.
But
Exactly
yeah,
what
at this
happened.
point
It was
is
one after another just coming in. Star Trails, Star Trails, Star Trails, like an echo chamber.
right, Crit. you were there.
Yeah,
You
it
know.
was hilarious.
Yeah, bro. So yeah, I'd like to know why they're still rotating when you're not on the ground.
Yeah, they
That's
can't.
pretty bad.
The only thing they can do is move across the sky in a straight line. It can't rotate. It can't be circumpolar.
The only way you could publish a book that tells you where the stars are going to be from the year 2000 to the year 2050. And then when I called the publisher or the navigation school that was selling that book, and I bought one, by the way, I said, how do you know where the stars are going to be in 2050 when it's only 2020? He says, well, we actually know more than that. We know where they're going to be 1,000 years in the rear and 1,000 years in the forward, as long as you want. The problem is you can't fit it all in the book, so we publish it in increments of 50 years. That told me everything, because you cannot know where the stars are going to be if we got 4 motions, including Earth being one of them, right? So it's the stars that are moving above us, and they have a circuit, and they repeat themselves, and they know exactly what it is, from the Babylonians to now.
Nice
They
internet.
really say we know them for 1,000 years out.
More. He says, as far as I go, he said, as far as you want to go forward, as far as you want to go back.
Really?
After I pressed him on it, because it was a live phone call.
How does that work on a ball that's spinning randomly throughout this galaxy, following and chasing the sun and all this nonsense?
It doesn't.
How do they have the stars 1,000 years out? Oh my god!
Just like we can't even work out how, like if you were to set off to Pluto on their model, right? You have to wind the clock backwards to work out which direction you take off from Earth, because depending on where the Earth is in its orbit relative to where Pluto is in its orbit, you could take off from Earth and be facing completely the wrong direction or heading in the wrong direction for Pluto. So you've got to calculate it backwards. If they can't do it forwards, they have to do it backwards. How is it they're able to tell where all the stars are going to be when they're rotating in 3 dimensions? Like, because of the sun's orbiting. There's just no way that can work, because they've got to backwards calculate it from Pluto.
Well, now they got you talking about Pluto.
Yeah, within their model, though.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Every time they go to defend it, another Achilles heel shows up, as Mitchell showed, as you've showed, as Black Swan showed. I mean, every argument has so many falsehoods to it because it's a reification of a mathematical existence. They have the whole world in what's the word? Matrix. Yeah, that's the word. Everyone thinks it's all real.
That brings up another deceptive idea. I don't know if you guys remember this several years ago. Jeranism was using stellarium and was running it forward and backwards, I think. And he could show that none of the stars moved, even in stellarium, over courses of thousands of years. And then all of a sudden, one day they changed the program, and you can only go so far in the future or so far in the past. They changed it.
They're going to have to change that evidence that's online, because they can't have circumpolar star trails on the ISS.
Oh, it's too late. I've downloaded the pictures, so have everybody else. I think Hatfield's the one with the big camera, shows him shooting out of one of the windows in the ISS. Such nonsense.
Download those videos too before they scrub all of those.
The problem is, on the one hand, the only place that those videos can come from is NASA. But on the other hand, none of them are coming from NASA's official YouTube page. They're all coming from third parties. Like in other words, it's like plausible deniability. But if you go to NASA's official webpage, right, and then go within the page, there are no star trail images or videos.
Well, we've got the astronauts that they employ on the ISS with pictures of themselves shooting it, and a book published. You can buy the book. Why don't you buy the book? That way you have a hard copy.
If I do the word star trail, one word, nothing at all. If I do star trails, I don't get anything that's a direct match from NASA's own NASA's own webpage. So what I mean is, they're all coming from third parties. So NASA will just say, "Yeah, it's not us. Somebody's faking it."
No, it's their astronaut with a camera in their ISS, and it's in the book published. And they're not stopping it or telling him not to do it yet. They can say
Apparently,
whatever
Don
they want.
Patet did it.
What?
That time-lapse photography thing. He said he developed a special machine. In his book, he describes about how he did it.
Who, Don Pettit?
Yep.
Yeah, that's.
Has anybody got that book?
Don Pettit has a book. Really?
Yeah. He developed, like, you'll see him working on this machine that he used to stabilize the camera so it could do the star trail. Yeah, he called it port and starboard. Like, you can actually see the photos too. I found them. Yeah, they're on the. I'm not sure if it's right on NASA though, but.
Yeah, but if it's somebody from NASA claiming to do it, because NASA's own YouTube page don't do it. So let's just see where else we can get from.
Well, just type in astronaut star trail photography ISS, and you'll see the astronaut in question. There's more than one who's done it. But like Chocolate said, half of them say that you can't see any stars, and this half is publishing books with star trails. Give me a break.
NASA.gov, star trails seen from low Earth orbit. Now, to be fair, the star trails that I'm looking at here, let me put a link in the side chat. Where is it? How do I do this now?
Master B.
Master B.
Yeah, that's the one right there. Oh, if you look, I posted two, plus Kosho posted one. Yeah, he does like a whole, on his YouTube page, Smug Mug or something like that, it talks about how he did it. That's like his name to fame, like Don Patet's thing. I mean, other than acting goofy, like.
I'm gonna have to. I'm not in Master B. I left Master B. I'll put it in the side chat in this hangout thing. Has Nathan dropped already? Oh no, he's still here. That's the one I'm looking at from NASA's webpage, right? Them star trails look like they're straight lines, not curves. But there's not enough of them to show. Let's see if I can get more images. Yeah, we need something directly from NASA. But then again, that being said, the only star trail pictures from claiming to be from ISS must be from NASA because nobody else can get on it. But it needs to be published by NASA, though.
It doesn't matter, Anthony.
No, I know.
It doesn't matter. They could have said these astronauts are lying, which then causes a bigger problem. It's nonsense. Those pictures at 17,500 miles per hour are the same exact star trails that they say are being taken, at least in my area, at 860 miles per hour. If you beg the question, the Earth is moving. So you tell me the concentric circles are going to be that way? And Mitchell from Australia even said, is the ISS doing barrel rolls? Give me a break. The minute I saw it, I said, what a fake overlay this is.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly look fake. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that they're real apart. But then again, Globers don't critically analyze anything, did he? They just believe everything that they're given.
There's a movie, Sicario. Have you seen it before?
No.
Okay, it's a part 1, part 2. It's a pretty cool film in the sense how it talks about the cartels, etc. And in the second one, this kid is being trained to take migrants over the border, and his handler says to him, and it's his first time doing it. So he's got all these people he's got to cross I think Rio Grande or something, take him to a pickup spot. And his handler says to him as they get off the bus, remember, they're sheep. Treat them that way. And I said, wow, what a line. That's how they look at the population. They're sheep. Let's treat them that way. And so they can put up phony pictures because they're sheep. They've got them into entertainment. They've got them into sports. They've got them into whatever vice you can get anyone in. So they can get all this foolishness passed by them with just stupid imagery, like Pluto, the dog on Pluto's planet's face and stuff like that. Dumb stuff. People aren't awake, but hopefully they'll wake up.
I just don't understand how. It's almost like they've planted it so that we could find it. It's like they can't.
No,
Yeah, that's
they
exactly
haven't.
what they do.
No, it's, you know what it is? They're having fun with it, but they are looking at everybody as sheep. And the small contingent of us that aren't sheep isn't going to make a difference to them. So they're emboldened that they could goof around and play around with their plantings and so forth. But it's their motivation, it's their attitude about people. If look at what's happening now, without mentioning it, look how many people are falling for it. Media control, schools, government control. They're making people think exactly the way they want them to think, and we're asking them to think and ask questions. It's not too much, is it? But we're finding out how dumb people are. They don't even know what logic is.
Well, they got so many bad examples, you know. It's like a cultural thing, sort of, among teenagers. It's something that I've heard echoing back in my day, 30 years ago. From then on, is that like, oh no, it's all just flexible, and they're basically giving so many weird new alternative ways of doing things, all not based on the original logic and sensibility, that they're on purpose trying to derail people and then hoping that they won't be corrected by traditional parents or whatever, and then they drag him to the craziest of places, and then they hang around there in the weird false belief that that is normal. Now, I'm not even talking about the globe, but the globe is just a backdrop, bigger part of it all, because it's a giant collage of collage of just all these things to get distracted by in many different ways. Either you dream about it, you think they're cool, or you figure out they're fake, and then you obsess over the fakery of it. But it is a distraction. It is a giant movie to distract the sheep, to keep them busy and not start looking around their own confine.
Yeah, well put. And we can test to that when we watch Dr. Becky sitting at her computer answering emails and doing science, and then coming out with a book, and then smiling and saying black holes and supernovas, and because there's a PhD certificate, and then there's other people like her who are far more advanced, and then she's got pictures of herself with these heroes of her saying, one day I want to be like this guy. And, oh, look at this picture. I got a picture with this professor. And so it's like, are you thinking, or are you being led by the lie that they were led to get to the place they were? Before they got there, they were led by the lie. And it's just going down the educational system with no facts, because they don't use the scientific method, as we found out.
Right. Are you actually exploring, or are you just following a set of railroads that are very comfortable to follow?
That's it. Parroting railroad tracks. Hey, she's got a Mercedes. Somebody else, they'll pay you for that.
She got Mercedes.
No, I'm just using that as a line.
Oh, right.
From the Phil Bell thing.
Who with the right mind appeals to the car that they drive as a supporting argument for anything? Like...
Look, in the business world, Anthony, when I first started, I didn't have a nice car. I went out and killed it and made money, and I bought a nice BMW at the time. Because when you pull up to somebody's house and you're going to tell them how to handle their money, they look at your car, right? Now, my car wasn't bad. It was a Toyota before. And I got to a point where I got a nice 323, BMW, which I loved. It was great. And it wasn't that expensive. It was much cheaper, like what, $28,000 I bought it for, dollars back then. And what a car. It was great. But people I saw in my field were going for even bigger cars, more like $80,000 cars. I go, why are you buying an $80,000 car? Well, you got to look the part. And I said, look the part. I was doing it with a Toyota. But 28,000 from 22 is not a big jump. But they had an ego, right? They wanted to look like I'm really successful.
Yeah, but in this topic though, it has no relevance. So it's like it doesn't matter whether you drive a Mini or a Ferrari. If
it does.
It's not a force.
Well, you're coming at it from logic. They're coming at it with perception and how do I fool people into thinking I'm successful. Well, I got a big car, I got a big lease, I got a big house. I mean, who needs an 80,000 square foot house? There are people with 80,000 square foot homes. Come on.
Nathan, Nathan, are you still there?
He's got a premiere on right now. He might be not even paying any mind to us.
He's not listening though.
We're okay. It's not a problem.
Well, I was just going to ask: are we still being recorded? If we are,
we are. Just look at the backdrop at Nathan's. That's the backdrop of the show, so it's still going. If that stops and it just becomes one picture, then you know it's over.
Which picture does it become? Is it the one where he's in that studio?
Yes. The older picture. But as long as the slideshow, the show is still going.
I like what Mitchell did. It was very concise, to the point, and I put a comment up on his channels thanking him for it. And of course, the trolls come in with ad homs and funny statements rather than answering the questions. Now, they never answer the question, right? How do you get what you get when you're not supposed to get it? And they can't. I mean, they're going to have brain damage if they try to answer it.
Yeah, I want to see them address it.
They won't. It's if they address it.
I mean, there are some listening right now. They could easily address it if they want.
All right, come on and address it. If you're a real baller and you could stop the attacks, the ad homs, and just have a civil conversation, come on.
Yeah, bully.
Questions.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, Zach's posting a lot of stuff in text. You know, like you can open his mic at any time.
Say that again.
Xanax has a bunch of questions for 10th Man. Like he keeps posting stuff that someone should ask you a bunch of questions here, but he won't open his mic and ask you himself.
Other than Zanuck, who obfuscates and does what he does and has been kicked off so many platforms, is there a true baller out there that doesn't have the mannerisms of Zanuck? Because we know what we're going to get with Zanuck all the time.
Zanuck is not.
He wants me to ask for him.
So you can come in at any time. I just checked.
Just anybody on the baller side that can explain how you're getting circumpolar star trails from the inertial reference frame. It's like we need an explanation for that because that doesn't happen on your model.
Yeah, their model says the Earth is turning. That's why the stars look the way they do. I say the stars are turning and the Earth is stationary. That's why the stars look the way they do.
Yeah, bully.
Maybe we could try Ed, who just learned yesterday that what direction his globe in his model is supposed to be spinning.
He didn't know?
Nope.
No.
Oh my.
Ed is special like that.
Yeah.
He didn't know the basic west to east direction?
No. He was asked what direction are the stars moving, and he did not know. So we said, okay, what direction is your globe moving? He didn't know. He's like, I'm going to go look it up.
Oh, my gosh.
But yeah, we'll be in here every day calling us stupid, right?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Talking about Zanuck?
No, educational dysfunction.
No, Ed Freeze.
That's so basic, though.
Bro, I told him I learned that in 4th grade. He was like, what's your point? Crookshanks, what? Bro?
Hey, Crookshanks has a question.
Don't you debate this with us? Like you don't know which way your Earth is fitting in your model? That's terrible.
You mean he's never heard the L.A. to Charlotte and Charlotte back to L.A. argument?
He's probably heard it 1,000 times, but just I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they don't pay attention. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they just think we're wrong. We're stupid, so we don't need to know anything, right? You could just debate people who know more about your model than you, right, Ed?
Hey, Crookshanks has a question here. Oh, as I see your mic working, go ahead, ask it.
Ask who what?
Crookshanks.
Ask who what, Crit?
Yeah, well, Crookshanks, he has a question too, but his mic works. I saw it light up, but then he doesn't seem to be able to talk. This is a guy who self-proclaims or self-identifies as a NASA rocket science or engineer or something like that, but he's on Discord all day, every day. I mean, what type of job could he be doing?
Mr. Engineer, would you like to come on and talk to us, please? Us lowly flat earthers, could you please talk to us? Tell us why your silly little stars are rotating when you're not on the non-inertial reference frame, please.
He says he works for NASA?
Yeah, he works for NASA. One time I offered to even debate him orbital mechanics. He didn't even show up. So I debated just some random globy guy. Then later on, he sent me a link about interstellar orbital mechanics when we were talking about, basically the ISS, like geostationary objects. So I'm like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about. You're sitting there citing sources that had nothing to do with the conversation. And then later on, then he talked about how launching. I go, nope, we already talked about the objects there. I hand waved it all. I said, let's just talk about just the mathematics about how the object falls around the Earth. Then he started talking about launching. I'm like, see, this is why you can't have a talk with this Crookshanks guy about orbital mechanics, because he doesn't know any of it. Then he says, well, read this book. And then he tells me a book that's like 3 editions older. I couldn't even get the book that he wanted with my Kindle Unlimited. And then it's like, this guy's amazing. You can't even figure out how to make a mic work. Yeah, you can see the mic working because he fat-fingered it a few times.
He can't get a mic to work, but he knows about launches.
Yeah, it's incredible. What an engineer. He can't even get a microphone to work. How about this, Crookshanks? Show me you know a microphone works, and I'll believe you work for NASA. How about that? This is my olive branch to you.
I've spoken to
just say yes.
Look.
Yes.
So he can work. There it is. So now what's your excuse for why you can't talk?
That makes no sense. He can talk. We just heard him. So that's a stupid question.
Yeah,
sorry.
Forget about that. Let's just see. What's the explanation for circumpolar star trails from the ISS?
Please, so you don't say we're rude.
Please. How is this picture relevant, Nathan? Don't confuse the man.
Doesn't look like we're going to get an answer.
Well, he's typing again, so he won't talk now. He said circumpolar stars work exactly on the same as the ISS. The ISS rotates as it orbits.
All right. So that means that when we're looking at circumpolar star trails from Earth, and they tell us it's not the stars turning, it's the Earth turning. When you leave that frame of reference and you become the International Space Station, that would then have to revert back to being non-circumpolar star trails that are just straight lines. But it doesn't appear to do it. So you're saying that we don't understand. Is that basically what you're saying?
Just said the ISS is moving. Are you deaf?
Yeah, straight lines, not circumpolar. Are you mistaking straight line velocity of the star trails for curved ones?
Seriously. You know what the actual frame
who's talking?
It's me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, we got Beavis and Butthead.
Oh my gosh. We're still waiting for the NASA guy to talk, and these two jump in.
Well, Crookshanks was laughing. He opened his mic to laugh, so he can do that. He can open his mic to say yes.
Yes, he can talk. Don't get it. Maybe he's busy.
He's in a voice chat, though, isn't he?
Right. So you can listen, but maybe, yeah, you said it. It's too noisy. So what's not about
He's doing a rocket design.
One of you guys. How fast is the ISS supposedly moving in this so-called vacuum of space of yours?
Well, since you seem to think there's something wrong with it, you must know the answer yourself.
I'm asking you a question for a civil dialogue. Would you accept this back and forth, or should I go to Chaiki?
17,500 miles an hour in their bullshit world.
I'm having. I'd like to have a civil dialogue. I'm going to ask a question. Don't come back with a question. How fast is your ISS moving in the vacuum of space above Earth?
Very fast.
One of you, please.
Yeah, I answered. Very fast.
What? No, not very fast. How fast? I'll give you the first two numbers before the comma. 17.
Oh, so you do know. So why don't you just tell us instead of asking dumb
No, because
questions?
I want to know if you know the
Get
Earth
to
was
your
turning
argument.
west to east.
Get to your argument.
No, why don't you just bow out since you're confrontational, and I'll go with Chaiki, who seems a little bit better.
Listen, Ed
Because you're
just
acting
learned
like a
what
child.
direction his presupposed globe spins yesterday, so
That's what I'm saying.
maybe Chaiki might know better.
That's what I'm saying. He didn't know until yesterday that it was turning west to east, and he doesn't know how fast the ISS is going, but it's his worldview that it's up there going at some speed. But why, me as a flat earther, how come I know it?
Just get to the point.
No, Chaiki.
Chaiki. Chaiki, do you want to talk to me or not? Because Ed Freeze is being ridiculous.
I gave you my answer.
Okay, I know you said
I
very
didn't
fast.
measure how fast it goes.
No, I know. How fast does it go? You said very fast. Okay, let me put it another way. How long does it take to go around your Earth? One rotation around your Earth.
About 90 minutes.
90 minutes, okay. So if you did the math, it would be 17,500 miles per hour. Agreed?
Okay.
Okay, agreed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So if you go in a car on Earth with a video camera and you're going 60 miles per hour and it's set up, say, on your roof or inside your car, it doesn't matter, in the direction you're traveling, all of the physical locations are going to be in straight lines coming at you because you're moving. It's going to be that's still photography that catches all of the streaking lights, like you see the red tail lights or the white tail lights when they take a time lapse of a freeway. The motion of the direction of the lights. Now, we know that's how it works. So if the ISS is actually up there and it's going 17,500 miles per hour and it's got a live video camera, those star trails would be, like Anthony said, in the direction of the ISS, not in concentric circles. It'd be impossible to take that picture because the ISS is moving.
Position. So you're wrong.
No, not you, Ed Freeze. Chaiki.
What
Do you understand when
the ISS
someone bumps
moving
your?
has to do
Do you
with
understand
it?
when someone bumps? Excuse me.
He's responding. Hold on,
Chaiki.
man. Hold on. Go ahead, Chaiki.
What does the speed of the ISS has to do with it?
I'm going to explain. If someone bumps your hand while you're taking a picture with your iPhone or Android phone, it leaves a streak or a blur in the direction of the hit or the bump. In the same way, a video from a car will show it in the direction it's going. The ISS is going in a certain direction. And if the camera is live, it's catching everything, and it's going to be streaking in the direction of the ISS. You'll never get a pure focused picture of a concentric circle. It'd be impossible unless you stop the ISS. And it was just stopped. But it's not stopped, is it? And that's even a violation because you don't even have an outer space. You see how ridiculous those pictures are?
I didn't understand anything you said.
Well, I don't know how to dumb it down anymore. Chocolate, you want to take over? I don't know how to dumb it down anymore.
Come on, Chocolate. Step up, man. You've not said much today.
I just thought of something. Let me jump in real quick. That's something else. Hey, 10th Man, you've actually done star trails, right? You've done those, right?
Yeah, I did one last night.
How long did you have to do the exposure? Like, how long were you?
2.5 hours on the star trail mode in my P900 camera, and it gives me a 10-second star trail after 2.5 hours on a tripod, very still.
Okay, now let's think about that for a second. It took you 2.5 hours. Now, to get a star trail, let's say, for the good exposure, you would say you have to be on a similar length of time. Well, wouldn't you have made at least one revolution around the Earth and also a part of another in the same time period, almost 2 full rotations? So you should see a complete circle, wouldn't you? Even if their argument is that valid. But that long exposure.
In my 2.5 hours, I don't get a complete circle the way those pictures show. I get the circle started.
You get 15 degrees, and then 7 and a bit.
Yeah. No, it's nonsense. I have to use a tripod. I can't move. I've actually hit my tripod while setting up one time for a star trail, Paul. And I had to turn it off because I knew I bumped into it. But it recorded the image. And the way I bumped it also left a streak of the moon that way. And so I know what I'm talking about here. There's no way that picture's real.
There's been no response. You've obviously attempted.
Well, he's laughing, so he can do that.
You can laugh, yeah. Did you want to make a conclusion, and then I'll round out 10th?
Yeah, if these ballers, if they were at all honest, they would get a camera, do their own star trails, realize how photography works to even capture a star trail. Then they could do little tests like bumping it and seeing what way the streak would go in the direction of the bump or not. Then they get in their car and do one from there. And they could see lots of live videos in YouTube as well. Bottom line is, to do a terrific star trail photography, you need a very good tripod and a steady location, which is made by that tripod. And you can't touch your camera once you start it. Okay, any movement, like if I have an earthquake here in California, it would register it if it was during the time it was, flickering. So it is impossible for the Earth to be moving. It is only possible that the stars are turning, and that's the star trail photography proves that.
But with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!